He is 100% worth it.
He takes it to another level. Oh my God, I just fell in love with it.
Thanks so much, Jay.
Blew my mind. And it worked. I wanted to buy my thing.
Jay is, I would say, the Yoda of sales calls, man.
Just talking to Jay, he was so good at just taking what it is, seeing the opportunity and the value and the real reason we are making it.
Talk to Jay, because he got it. He can definitely help you out.
Talk to Jay. You're going to get a lot. You're going to gain a lot.
I would absolutely recommend him for any position that you have.
Jay's definitely the guy.
Give him the chance, give him the opportunity. You won't regret it.
He's good at what he does, so I highly recommend him, and I would book him before he is fully booked out.
What is up, ninjas? Welcome to the Sales Ninja Show podcast, where we cut through the noise, ditch outdated sales tactics, and show you how to close deals with confidence, strategy, and integrity. I'm Jay Lee, the founder of Sales Ninja. As a former banker, former introvert, former pastor, and high-ticket seven-figure sales ninja, I now help grow and scale businesses without the need for pushy tactics. And that is the heart of the reverse glass selling method, a kingdom-driven approach from the Bible in 1 Peter 3:15, which is built on trust, service, and true connection. My mission is to help 1 million people break the cycle of generational poverty so that you can sell more to give more. Today's guest is recognized for his work in high-ticket sales, offer development, and revenue optimization. He has closed over $25 million in one-to-one sales, led sales operations inside multiple 8- and 9-figure companies, and built systems that help entrepreneurs clarify their offers and convert without pressure-based tactics. So get ready to learn practical frameworks for offer design, ethical closing techniques that convert, and a raw story about resilience that shaped his selling philosophy. Put your ears on for strategies that you can use to sell more and give more. Please welcome Jeremy Sandell. What is up, Sales Savage? How you doing today?
What's up, Jay? That's a cool intro you got, man.
Thank you. Thank you. That is pretty impressive. $25 million in one-to-one sales closed and helping 8- and 9-figure companies. So let's start from the beginning. Did you grow up in an entrepreneurial family? Did you grow up knowing sales and doing sales? How did it all start?
Yeah, this was interesting because both of my grandfathers were both entrepreneurs. One had an HVAC company, and I didn't know this growing up. The first time I met my dad's dad was when I was like 20 years old, 21. And my other grandfather had like a liquor store, like a local liquor store in the neighborhood. But like nobody ever really talked to me about sales as a kid, even though both my mom and one of my uncles were in sales for much of the time I was growing up.
Who was in sales?
My mom and my uncle both.
Really? What kind of sales?
Yeah. I don't remember. My mom sold a lot of different stuff. She was like in network marketing, like in an office, doing like vitamin sales, a few other different things. And then my uncle was selling cars.
Wow. Vitamins and cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do they do with that?
As far as I know, my uncle did okay. Like they made enough money to pay the bills and not be like totally broke. And my mom, I'm not quite sure, because eventually she moved into operations. And she did really well in operations, managing companies out in Los Angeles.
Okay. So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but based on some of the information that our team gathered, you grew up sharing a 4-bedroom house with 13 people.
Yeah. That's the only reason I know my uncle was in sales, because it was my mom and her husband, my aunt and her husband, my uncle's brother and his wife, their baby, all of my uncle's kids, all of my mom's kids.
What?
So it was nuts. So like when you ask like how did they do in sales, I'm like, well, they did okay, because like we could all afford to live together in that big, in that big family, but it wasn't like amazing.
I can't even imagine what it's like to live in a 4-bedroom house with 13 people. And it says spent years in state group homes. I'm not even sure what that is and how that works.
Yeah, so in America, we've got something called Child Protective Services, CPS.
Yeah.
And when when your parents have issues, there's violence, there's drugs, there's stuff like that, the state will literally just come in and take you. And then, and it's kind of weird because like in America, there's this idea you're innocent until proven guilty.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to CPS, it's the other way around. You're guilty until proven innocent. And I spent a lot of growing up really like angry at the government in general. And it wasn't until I was like a full grown adult that I understood like I might have actually dodged a bullet by being taken by CPS when I was a kid. Because there was a lot of violence in my household and there were a lot of drugs going through that house that I didn't know anything about it. As a kid,
Really?
I didn't know anything about it.
How did you not know?
Honestly, the way my family was, it was like the men were out of the house during the daytime at work. So we were alone and both my mom and my aunt worked nights. So they were asleep when we were home. So like during the daytime, from the time I got home from school until 6 or 7 o'clock at night, I was just running around doing whatever I wanted. Like we would grab our skateboards and go. And like we'd literally, like, it sounds crazy today because nobody would do this with their kids, but like we would skate an hour away from our house and be gone and come back later on. And like nobody ever asked like, where did you go? What happened? It was just expected that when we got home from school, we should be outside doing whatever.
When you were 6 or 7 years old?
This is probably closer to when I was like 8.
That's young. That's like grade 4.
Yeah. 4th and 5th grade.
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, is your house like Breaking Bad? I don't know if you've seen the series on like,
it wasn't none of my family, as far as I know, were actually like dealing drugs. They were just drug users. And I think part of it was like a lot of my family are high in anxiety. And I think what it was like they were just like they're high anxiety, but they're also working like 10 to 12 hours a day and then taking care of all these kids and grocery shopping and cooking and all this other stuff. But like, it's weird how as an adult you look back on stuff and you're like, man, how lucky am I that I went through this? Because like, I'm incredibly resilient. There's like a good example. We were talking on Instagram yesterday.
Yeah.
I was at the gym trying to deadlift 335 pounds. I've never done it before. And I just kept trying. I was like, if I keep trying, maybe it'll work, and it's like 5 or 6 tries. And a lot of people I think would stop. Like they try one time and they would just stop. But going through all this like violence in the household and then also like being very independent. Like, I mean, we would cook our own food a lot of the time because there wasn't anyone around to cook.
Wow. So you grew up raising your own self?
Yeah. And then once I was in group homes, a lot of that is like, it's not the best system in the world. And if you look at the statistics around group homes, they're pretty bad. It's really dismal. Like more than 80% of people who emancipate, meaning they're now considered an adult from group homes, more than 80% are homeless and on drugs within 1 to 2 years of leaving. So it's a pretty bad thing. But when I was there, I was so used to doing stuff myself already. I didn't have a lot of the struggles other kids did that were there, because I was like, this is easy. Like I cook for myself all the time. Like I wash my own clothes all the time. Like none of this is strange to me.
That is interesting because a lot of people would either be victimized, which is a victim mentality, saying this is woe is me, and just kind of break. Other people might, in depression and, with issues with their parents, if you're not around being raised by parents, have this void. But you operated in a different operating system where you kind of were resilient and you said, hey, I can take life and decisions in my own hands. How did you do that? Like when most or a lot of people would usually crumble and break under the pressure.
You know, it was kind of two things. One was I was very angry for a long time. And one of the benefits, and this maybe we can get into this, maybe not, but one of the benefits of anger is it forces you to act on your own a lot. And so what ends up happening is it becomes habitual that you just do things yourself because you're like, dude, who's going to help me? Like nobody's coming. And then the other thing that really helped me was when I was 20 or 21. I found out I was going to be a dad, and I was like, I got to be an adult now. You know, I'd spent 8 years on drugs. People always ask, like, what was your drug of choice? And I was like, if you could put it in my hand, I would take it, because my problem wasn't a drug addiction. It was, I don't have a way to deal with this stuff that happened to me. I don't know how to deal with this stuff. But when I found out I was going to be a dad, I was like, I need to make money on the internet. I know it's happening. It's got to be happening. This is around 2011, 2012. There's no way all this stuff happens on the internet and nobody's making any money. And I got into a network marketing company. They sent me a kit with protein powders and vitamins, but there was a DVD in there of Jim Rohn. I think it was called How to Live Your Best Life Ever, or How to Have Your Best Year Ever. And I remembered watching that, and it was like therapy for like probably 3 months. I watched that DVD from the beginning to the end every day.
Wow.
Because he said all the things that I was saying. He was like, you know, I had all these excuses, like the taxes are too high, the government, my neighbors, my family. And I remembered how silly I felt when I heard it, because I was like, I'm an adult, dude. Like, what of these things is keeping me broke? What of these things is keeping me unhappy? Like, it's all me.
So that's crazy. So I can't even imagine being a father at 21. So do you have many children, and how old are your children now?
Just one so far. I've got a 12-year-old.
Okay.
Probably that'll change over the next couple of years. The goal is this is going to sound crazy. The goal is to have 10 kids.
What? Wait. Are you in a relationship or married right now?
I'm engaged. I'll be married within the next 3 to 4 months.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you know, the reason why I want to have 10 kids, because you know how they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with?
Yeah.
Well, kids are the happiest people on the planet. So I'm like, look, most of the adults I know, they're very serious. They're very like goal and money oriented, and they don't know how to just play and have fun and just like screw around a little bit. So the idea is you got 10 kids, they've got their own government, they do their own stuff to a certain extent, but you're surrounded by happy, creative people. And going back to what you're saying about the Bible, you know, it's like, as far as I can tell from reading the Bible, one of the best things that happens to human beings as a result of God's presence in our lives is having children. I can't think of anything, like when I had my son, I just remember thinking to myself, like, wow, like, not only is this like a blessing and I'm very happy, but it was also like, I know who I have to be now. Like, I know I'm thinking in very long-term stages, as opposed to just thinking about what do I want to do with my life today.
Wow. So that DVD from Jim Rohn changed your life.
Yeah, it was crazy. He had already passed by then. I was so bummed out when I found he had already passed, because I was like, I wish I could have thanked this guy, because this DVD absolutely changed the way I thought. Like, and it wasn't a little thing. It was like, I went from the guy who is like, I'm smoking weed from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep.
Wow.
I was smoking like 1.5 packs to 2 packs of cigarettes a day. All my friends were heavy drinkers, so of course I was a heavy drinker. I'm coughing up blood. Like, I'm just not doing well. And I'm pissed all the time. I'm just so angry. And I watched this DVD, and it was like night and day, like immediate shift into a totally new way of thinking, a totally new reality.
So while you're listening to Jim Rohn, you're like high and, you know, drunk and, you know, smoking weed and smoking cigarette. I can't even imagine how you could even process things.
Yeah. You know, I think this is a genetic thing, but like the first time I ever got drunk, I was 13. I drank 2 40-ounce beers at 13 years old.
What?
So like I genetically, for whatever reason, my body metabolizes stuff like that really fast. So when I watched this Jim Rohn DVD, the first time I watched it, I was smoking weed. I probably was drinking a couple of beers when I was watching it, but like it was just normal. Like right now, you and I is like that's just how I was. Like it was just the way I was. And it was crazy because like when I think back, this is about 15 years now. I think back and I'm like, it seems like I remember it as if it was a movie. Like, you know, you watch a movie that's really good, you're immersed in it, and then you think about it later on, but it's out there, it's something else. And it's like my life and my mindset and everything is so different now compared to then that like it's hard to even like remember it as if it was me because I'm not the same person.
That's crazy. So I'm actually amazed by the transformation because coming out of being, you know, an alcoholic at a very young age, being in group homes, you know, smoking weed from wake to sleep, you know, smoking 1 to 2 packs of cigarettes. People usually don't come out of that, at least not for a very long time. And, you know, having a son and, you know, learning at a young age that no one's going to save you, no one's going to rescue you. And like you said, you know, your dream is not just to have one child, but, you know, God's gift is having children, which is that 10 kids, and being in a place where, you know, you can be that adult that can teach them how to have fun and learn at the same time. I think something about not just magical, but powerful about putting fun and learning together. Because when learning is like, you know, a drag, it becomes something that people don't want or desire. But when we put or gamify, you know, like that's why, like, you know, my favorite subjects in school were like gym, lunch, spares, and, you know, when the bell rang so I can go home.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really lucky early on. When I was like 5 or 6, I was taken from my parents and I was allowed to stay with my grandma and my grandpa. And my grandma like got me into reading. Like she got me into learning. And my whole life, like even when I was on drugs and drinking and stuff, my whole life, I always thought the learning part was the most fun because it's like you're on an adventure. You're like learning new things. And it's like the whole world becomes bigger every time you learn something new.
I know we can keep going on with the whole personal story, and that will be woven throughout this podcast interview.
Yeah.
I want to transition a little bit to startup challenges and scaling strategies, because you talk about this upbringing that was pretty rough and you became very resilient. What are some early signs, you know, when we talk about offers that monetize and offers that do not monetize or scale, and what do you do to fix them?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky that I learned a lot of this from guys that were 20 years my senior that had a ton of success. But like when it comes to new offers, I always tell people like write down all of the things that you would want if you were your own customer. And ideally, especially focus on things that seem unreasonable or unbelievable. What most people do when they put a new offer together is they're like, oh, so-and-so has this kind of problem and we can do this, this, and this. And those are usually the least exciting parts of an offer package. So what ends up happening is they might launch paid ads, they might post on their socials, and they don't really get anywhere with it. What I typically find is a good early sign with a new offer especially is if you get a sale the first day, even with no ad spend, you're probably onto something. And then from there, you just what'll happen is it'll be choppy, especially if you're not paying to run ads. It'll be a little bit choppy. You'll get a couple sales, you feel excited, and then nothing happens. And you're like, okay, what do I do next? The best thing I've found is literally get your first couple of sales as quickly as you possibly can. And then hyper focus on delivery. How do I really fulfill this that this person is like telling me, verbally saying to me, I'm so happy that you guys are working with. Like if somebody says, I'm so happy to give you my money, then you know, okay, we've got something here fulfillment wise that we should be scaling. Especially in the space that I'm in the agency space, the average agency can retain a client for about 3 or 4 months before they lose them. A big chunk of that is nothing about what they're doing creates raving fans. Nothing about what they're doing is so exceptional that people like, I'd be stupid to stop spending money with this company.
Okay, so that was really powerful. So some signs that offers will scale is if it sells on the first day without ad spend, then you're onto something. Hyper focus on delivery. I think I heard you say agencies retain clients for an average of 3 months. So if you can hyper focus on delivery, you can have LTV, which is like a lifetime value for the clients to stay on. Because if you're giving them results and delivering, then they won't ever want to leave, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what's in terms of leadership and team building, because I know you've helped 8-9 figure companies, what's one hiring mistake founders keep repeating when building a sales team?
Yeah, you know, I think the number one sign of a healthy sales organization is a high amount of turnover. In general, I've found in order to find one exceptional salesperson, you have to hire about 20. If you're lucky, you've got an established brand. Sometimes it can be 12 to 15. Typically, you're going to have to hire 20 salespeople to find one exceptional person. But having high turnover, it does a lot of things psychologically most people don't think about, which is number one, the salespeople that are there are like, hey, I'm going to get kicked out of here if I'm not making deals happen.
Right.
And the second thing that it does is it keeps the energy high. When there's a lot of people coming in and going out all the time, it keeps the energy high. And the people that are exceptional that stay long term, what ends up happening is you might end up, let's say, with 5 A players. Like, I mean, I'm talking salespeople who can do, 250 to $500,000 a year in commissions. That becomes the model long term for how the rest of the organization should perform. But the other thing is a lot of really great salespeople tend to be kind of like me, like they're self-starters. They start figuring stuff out on their own. They're not waiting for somebody to say, oh, here's how we should text people. Here's how we should email people. They're just going to experiment on their own. And sometimes it's not good, right? Like that's part of the experimenting process. They'll do something and you're like, dude, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I thought if we did this, but that's actually a good sign. If they're trying stuff on their own and they're failing and you're like, why did you do that? And they say, well, I was thinking about it. And the way I thought this would work is if we do this and then this, and then this, we'll get this result. That's a sign of high levels of intelligence. And those people will eventually become sales managers, regional managers, etc. But the big mistake a lot of organizations have when it comes to sales is they try to find the perfect person that interviews well, and they hire one. And then that person comes on and you find out they're just great at interviewing. They're not great at closing.
Okay, that's beautiful. So let's say you're tasked in an agency. I know you have one. But to scale an agency, and let's say you have like 6 appointment setters, and 1 closer, and you're onboarding them, how long do you give them where you find out with the exceptional A players, whether you're testing, experimenting, before you found the right A player, like 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20? And how do you test that out in the experiment, and how long?
Yeah. I typically only give people 3 to 5 days.
Oh, wow.
And what'll happen a lot of times, people don't realize is the reason why there's so many salespeople is because the barrier to entry for doing sales is, can you speak the language you're selling in, which qualifies 100% of most countries. And so I make it really short. I'm upfront with people. I'm like, hey, look, we're going to run a 3-day experiment. If it seems like there's some promise here, or you're closing deals in that first 3 days, we'll keep you on longer. If not, we'll just part ways. That's just how it's going to be in our company. That's the way we run things. I don't typically find, like, let's say you bring in 20 people, at least 5 of them aren't even going to pick up the phone. It's nuts. Like, at least a quarter of the people won't even make more than a couple of phone calls per day. Another 5 or 6 of them are going to make some calls, but it's real spotty. They might make 20 calls and then they screw off for an hour and then they come back. You'll have, 1 or 2 people that absolutely stand out, and everyone else, they'll put in the effort, but they just don't have the skill and they just don't understand the psychology behind selling.
What is a criteria? So, so when you say these stats of 20 people, 5 people will not pick up the phone, 5 may make calls and kind of waste time, 1 or 2 people may stand out, and everyone else put the effort, but they don't really know the skill set. So what are you asking them to do? A certain number of KPI, like 50 dials, 100, 150 dials, whatever? What are you asking them to do?
Yeah, typically it's 100 dials a day. And just to give like people context, if they're not making phone calls for sales, when I ran an insurance agency, I was literally making 150 to 200 dials a day. So 100 is like below what my own personal standard was. So it's 100 dials a day. And out of that 100 dials, if they're a setter, they should have booked at least 4 to 6 appointments. Some of them will book more, and those will typically be the people who are overbooking. They're just not qualifying. They're just trying to get people on the calendar. And then on the sales side, we should either see, number 1, that there's a sale that happens or multiple sales that happen, or number 2, that they had sales calls and then they scheduled them to bring me onto a sales call because they're like, hey, look, I think this guy could spend $5 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand a month, but I just don't know what he needs to be able to close this. And then they bring me in to close the deal.
So let's talk some numbers here, because I'm trying to, and this is really good. So let's say they booked 5 appointments for 150 dials. So if my math is correct, that's like a 3% booking rate ish.
Yeah, I would say closer to 5%.
Okay. Because I mean, the dials, not everyone picks up, right? So we got to figure out what's the pickup rate?
So if you're doing B2B sales, typically your pickup rate, I don't count the secretary answering the phone as a pickup rate. I only count getting to the decision maker as the pickup rate. So I would say typically you'll get about 15% of people and it depends also on the setter, right? Like if the setter is kind of a scaredy cat, you might get 8% actually getting the decision maker on the phone and getting something booked.
Okay. So from the 8 to 15% that actually pick up, what percentage is booking? Oh, you said 5%?
Yeah.
Around?
Yeah. So for me specifically, and like for anyone listening, it's a good idea to keep in mind, I've been in sales for 14, almost 15 years.
Yeah.
For me specifically, I would expect half of the people that they actually get on the phone to book an appointment. Big part of the reason for that is because of the scripting that I give people. And we'll probably talk about this, but a lot of my scripting is very different from how most sales organizations reach out. They're like, hey, it's so-and-so with this company. Did you have a minute? Like, we don't do any of the cheesy stuff that everyone else does. So it makes it very easy to get booked calls.
So if I heard you correctly, because I heard 5% booking rate before, but you're saying that you expect them to book half?
Half of the people they get on the phone. So like if let's say we get 8 to 10 people on the phone, 4 to 5 of those should actually end up booking.
I see. Okay, so we're talking like a 50% booking rate.
Yes.
Okay. So what's different? Tell us. That's a perfect segue for your scripting, because those numbers are pretty impressive. And I was talking to another guy who is in insurance, another guy who is in recruiting, and they get a 6 to 10% pickup rate, which is much lower than what you're talking about. And the booking rate is abysmal. I mean, nowhere near what you're talking about.
Yeah. So there's 2 things that I do. One happens before anyone actually makes sales calls, and one happens on the sales call. I don't know where I came up with this idea. If there was somebody else that did it and I learned it for them, I'll give them the credit. But when I go into a new market segment, what I typically will do is I will personally call 100 businesses in that market segment, and I won't call to sell them. I will literally call, say, hey, my name is Jeremy. I'm a student. I'm doing a report. Let's use real estate as an example. I'm doing a report on real estate. I'm really interested in the industry. I was just wondering if John's around. Can I ask him like 3 questions so I can put this report together? And so it's very sneaky, right? Because I'm not being totally honest, because a lot of what I'm doing is a little bit deceptive. When I say I'm a student, their immediate assumption is I'm in college.
Right.
When I say I'm putting a report together, they assume I'm writing a report for college.
For school. Right.
Yeah. But I read more books than most college kids do. And I write a lot of reports. They're just not for a professor. They're for myself.
Right.
So that allows me to find out before any salespeople are calling, to find out what it is that people are dealing with in terms of their problems. So if I get John, the real estate agent, on the phone, say, hey, John, student, writing a report. I just wanted to ask you 3 questions, if that's cool. The first one, can you just tell me a little bit about what it's like to be a real estate agent? Like, what is your day like? Like, what do you how does this work? And I literally will mute myself on the phone and just let them talk. Just talk. And I'm taking notes. And then the second question is like, what's the best part of real estate? Like, what is it that you like? What got you into it? Again, mute, talk. I'm taking notes. And when I'm taking notes, by the way, this is a good thing for people to know. Some of my notes are very short, just 1-word things that I can remember later on that they were talking about. But some of them, I will literally quote that person when I'm taking the note. Because when you do 100 of these phone calls, you'll find that people will say the same things. You'll talk to 100 people and they'll use the exact same phrases. And one of my mentors calls this direct keyword matching. So when you're on a phone call, you don't rephrase stuff back to people, you repeat it back to them in their exact same words.
Right.
And so then that second part that comes in is, now that I've talked to 100 people, I asked, what is this business like? What do you like about it? The third question is like, I always make it a little kind of a joke. I'm like, what don't you like? Like, what's the biggest pain in the ass in real estate? Like, what am I getting myself into if I decide to become an agent in the future? And I've got those 3 things, and I've got enough data to know, okay, everybody's saying Facebook ads don't work for real estate agents, or everybody's saying, I can't figure out how to get views on Instagram or go viral or whatever it is. So then when I have my sales team calling, I already know what words are in that person's mind before the salesperson picks up the phone. So my scripting is based around the data I've already gathered, and it sets them up that they feel confident, because I'll just tell them straightforward, hey, just so you guys know, before I wrote this script and gave it to you guys, I called 100 different companies and talked to them, and they all said X, Y, and Z. So don't feel nervous or not confident. Like, we know more about their business than most of them do, because they don't call each other. And so obviously I train my team on how to get past gatekeepers. The main thing I tell them is like, just let them know you're not there to like hardcore pitch them and be an annoying salesperson. Like, it's not like that. And typically we try to make sure we have something that we can give them for free. Since I'm in the marketing space, a lot of times that's like me doing a 20 to 30 minute full audit of their website and socials, and not just doing an audit and telling them what's wrong, but literally being like, do this instead. And then on top of that, I'll usually give them scripts for content for an entire month just for taking the call with us. And a lot of people that are listening to this are probably thinking like, how can you afford to do all this work when 5% of people will actually buy? So if we've got 100 booked appointments, only 5 of those are actually going to buy. Well, number one, we charge enough money that we can afford it. And then number two, there's a lot of people that won't buy from you, but they'll be so happy about what you did that they refer their rich friends that will buy from you. And so part of that is just making sure the sales team knows we've got more data than they do. And here's how to present this in a way that you guys aren't coming across as like slimy, sleazy salespeople, but like genuinely caring human beings that really want to actually impact people's businesses.
Amazing. So I'll give you a real use case scenario, and this is where the best, the principles and the theories, kind of work in real life. So with one of the agencies I'm helping grow and scale, we did 2 days of calling, and we had about a 68% pickup rate and about a 38 to 50% booking rate from a free. We're going to offer them a free optimized YouTube video, for example. And so about 38 to 50% of them said yes. And there's other people who are skeptical because they're like, how can I trust you? How do I know? Like, all these different things, which is fine. And we have ways to overcome that through objection handling. What you said, so before the call, you talked about, getting the market research. During the call, you said, because you've made the 100 calls, you have X, Y, Z, the different pains, the different. So we know all those things as well. How in this situation would you recommend, getting more people to want to take the free optimized video, and from there, we can get much better results than, let's say they have in the real estate YouTube video, they have 123 views in 3 weeks, and then in 5 business days, we return the optimized video, the same one they've already done, 123 views in 3 weeks, and we get 1.2 thousand views in 5 days. How would you recommend, us getting people to take the free video, which is the lead magnet, and then we book a call from there because we need to show them the results? What would you recommend?
Yeah. So Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's business partner, talked about there's 25 cognitive biases. And what screws people up a lot is that they don't actually use enough of them when they're trying to build trust. So like what you guys are hitting on is reward, right? Like you're giving free stuff, so it's an immediate reward. But you're maybe not, and I haven't read the script, so I don't know, but maybe you guys aren't hitting on authority enough, right? You're not saying like, hey, look, just so you know that we're not wasting your time, we just did this last week, or we've done this with this company, or we've done this with this company and gotten them X, Y, and Z results. Authority is really powerful. I find there's a cognitive bias called association bias, which is basically a way of saying, if I quote Charlie Munger right now, the people that are watching this unconsciously are going to associate me with the traits that they recognize from Charlie Munger. So if people say, oh, Charlie Munger's really wise, he's, very common sense. If I quote him a few times while we do this podcast, people will walk away having that same sense about me, even though they're not my own words. Mm-hmm. And so one thing that I found was really effective when I was trying to figure out the sales thing, I was like, I don't know what to say and I don't know what to do. I made flashcards of the 25 cognitive biases. I'd go to the gym and be on the treadmill for 30 minutes, just flipping through them. And it just becomes habitual to start using them in the way that I'm writing scripts and the way that I'm talking to people. And this is a big part of the reason why I don't do a ton of objection training, because I'm like, if you hit on a lot of this stuff ahead of time, and also you can remove a lot of objections at the beginning of the call, when you get to the end, it's almost either they can't do it and they can't afford it, so they just try to make an excuse to get off the phone, or they're just working out payment terms with you.
Mm-hmm. So speak about that, because, so that's really amazing that when you can be able to show the authority and the cognitive biases, it really becomes a matter of a payment plan or can't afford it. Some sales coaches will, loop and, objection handle I don't have money. So you got on this call because you wanted to solve this problem. How much longer do you want to go with not solving this problem? And so it almost becomes like this, I don't know if you call it manipulative, but saying you got on this call because you wanted results, and kind of calling them on it, which is accountability. how much is too much? Like when you talk about, pressure, non-salesy pressure, but some people may need that push. How do you balance the scales between, when that someone you can change their life, and the next day, some of these people who say they can afford like a $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 coaching, they'll buy like a $1,500 iPhone 17 Pro Max that does nothing for them, right? Like how between what some call pressure, and some people are kind of over the top, and that's why that salesy thing comes out, versus that you can help them and you can change their life, and if you call them to account and call their BS and the smokes and mirrors, how do you finesse between that?
Yeah, I feel bad I didn't ask you earlier. Are you married?
I'm married with 3 children.
Okay. If you want to sleep with your wife tonight, is the best time to try to get that locked in when you guys are arguing about where to go for dinner?
No.
Right. So this is the big stupidity of sales. People are like, well, wait till the end. We'll deal with the objections while we're trying to get them to pay. It's absolute insanity. That's why a lot of the sales training that's out in the market right now is just nonsense. It just doesn't work. You can't get what you want in the middle of an argument. And so what happens is I've found there's basically 5 objections, right? There's like no need, they don't want, they're not the decision maker, they don't have time, or they don't have the money, right? Now there's 10 variations of how people will say it, but it's basically 5 things. All of those can get removed in the first 8 minutes of a sales call. And when I say 8 minutes, this is not like this is not just some idea I had. I literally had a timer. I bought one of those stopwatches, and I would time myself on sales calls. So when you get on the sales call, you ask, hey, just so we're not wasting time, I don't like doing like 10 calls. I'm sure you don't like it either. Is there anyone else, like is your wife or your husband involved in the business? Do you have a business partner? If I'm selling marketing services, do you have a CMO that you can bring into the call that it's going to be important for them to hear this? And I frame it in the way that I say, I want to make sure that I'm not wasting your time. I obviously don't want to waste my own because I'm selfish like everybody else. But on top of that, I'm going to share some stuff with you guys on this call that will absolutely help your business, even if we don't work together. So is there anybody else that should be on?
Right.
I talked a little bit more. There's less than 1 minute. So 1 minute, 1 objection's out of the way.
Right.
Within the first 5 minutes, especially when you sell B2B, you should be asking revenue questions. Between 5 and 8 minutes is about the sweet spot for that. What's gross revenue? What's net? What's the most profitable product? What's the least profitable product? Stuff like that. That gets the money objection out of the way early on, because if they tell you we're doing $3 million a year and we've got net profit of $800,000 and your offer is $5,000 a month, that's less than 10% of their net revenue over the year, right? So that's $60,000 for the whole year. That's about 8% of their net revenue. Most people can make that decision in 1 phone call. You don't need 10 phone calls for that.
Right.
So you've got the partner, you've got the money. Want and need are interesting because you don't need it if you want it, and you don't have to want it if you need it. Like women will spend $3,000 on a purse.
Yeah.
You don't need to spend that much on a purse, but you want to, and the vice versa. People don't always want to buy groceries because it's a pain in the ass, but you need to eat to live. And so those are pretty easy because you just ask simple questions. Hey, what's your goal? Like the easiest question to ask, what's the goal? And people will tell you, well, we want to increase revenue by 30% over the next 12 months. Got it. So about whatever that number is, about $150,000, about $500,000, whatever. And the cool thing about asking that is when people tell you their goal, if their goal is 5 times the amount of money they're going to pay you, it would be silly for them to say, well, we can't afford to spend that much money because blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, your goal is 5 times over what we charge. This is a no-brainer. This is not even expensive. And then when it comes to just like the rest of the call, it's just being systematic in a way that doesn't feel like a salesperson. So most of my calls, the beginning of the call is just big picture, like what's the goal? What's the biggest problem? You know, like how long have you guys been working on this? Like what do you feel like is the main thing you need? And a lot of people, what happens with salespeople is they'll ask, well, what do you guys feel like you need? And they think that's the real answer. Most of the time, people confuse the symptom with the actual illness. So they'll say, well, we'd just like to get rid of X, Y, and Z. You as a salesperson have to understand that's happening. That XYZ problem is happening because of this other thing, and then be able to explain it to them when you're actually pitching them.
That's powerful. I love how you get rid of those objections within the first 5 to 8 minutes. I just want to recognize the people who are watching. We had Zoe who said hello. We had Vinblocks. It's interesting. I see your background is 5 and 7. That's not time, right? What is?
Yeah, I'm staying at an Airbnb in Mexico, and they've got this big clock on the wall.
Okay.
But they forgot to put the actual hands on the wall, so it's just the numbers.
but the numbers are not in the right spot.
Oh, it's reversed. It's flipped because of my camera.
No, I mean like it should be like a 3 and 9, shouldn't it?
Oh no, there's the 6.
Oh, okay. That's confusing. Okay. Dave is also watching, so he says hello. And Jay Moss says thank you with authority. Also want to comment on this. If you're selling in the US, there are also FTC rules. You have to market by which influence what you can say and what you cannot say. For instance, apparently you cannot ask people what their goals are anymore or something like that. I gather that is what Anik Singhal got sued for. I don't think that's what Anik Singhal got sued for. He got sued for, and don't quote me on this, for making claims on, guarantees or, what they could get. And then they had to scrub through the sales calls. And each time they made some sort of promise, they got penalized even higher. You can ask, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jeremy, you can ask them what their goals are. You're not promising results. And that's where you have a disclaimer saying, these results may vary. We don't, promise these results unless you have a guarantee. You want to comment on that?
Exactly. So you can ask people what their goals are. That's called freedom of speech. You can ask basically anybody whatever you want, to be honest. But when you actually pitch people, there's 2 ways of going about this. There is no guarantee, which is the safest, but the least attractive.
Yeah.
Or the guarantee is we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and we're going to do that until you get X result. So if you say, I'm going to help you guys make an extra $100,000 this year, and you don't, well, then you have to refund them. If you make that, let's say $80,000, you might do a pro rata. In a contract, it's called pro rata refund, which means instead of giving them a full refund, you give them a 20% refund because you missed the goal by 20%. But you can absolutely ask people what their goals and obstacles are.
Okay, cool. So there's also aspect. Tizzy says LOL. That's one way to do it. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, let us know. I know we're already coming to the end of our time. I've just been having so much fun here. We probably need to do a part 2. Let's go to maybe one of the last questions, and I'm going to do a lightning round and ask you fast, punchy questions just to kind of learn who Jeremy Sandell is and learning more about who you are behind your agency. So I have this mantra where it's, sell more to give more, because growing up as an immigrant, growing up as an underdog, and, being a former pastor that struggled financially, that I vowed to God to use the platform and whatever influence that he gave me to help people sell more so that they can give more. What does that mean to you personally?
It's funny that you said that, because my mantra is very similar. It's like, it's just on the other side of the sales process, which is whoever cares the most closes the most. And I think this is really important for people to understand. If you look at the etymology, like the origin of the word sell or to sell, the original meaning of that was to hand something to somebody or to give something to somebody. So I love that that's your mantra, because I think we're both in alignment that, like, the whole purpose of sales is not to convince people to give you their money and to get things from other people, but to find a way to get people to open their hands so that you can give them something that will improve their life, improve their business, improve their relationships, etc.
Amazing. I love that. So a couple of lightning round questions, just whatever comes to the top of your mind, just kind of rattle off what comes as the first reaction. Favorite morning habit that fuels sales performance?
Meditation.
Best book you recommend for offer design?
Alex Hormozi's $100 Million Offers.
And the next one will be the one that you write. Is there a book on the way in the
Eventually, yeah. I actually yes, it's funny you asked. I just put in my notes yesterday an idea for a book that I wanted to write.
There you go.
Because I've been writing as a copywriter for 9 years, and I've been writing music since I was like 7 or 8 years old. So I was like,
really?
why haven't I written
You're
a
a musician
book?
as well?
Yeah. That was my original goal in life, was to be a rock star.
What do you play?
Guitar.
Nice. I'm also a musician as well. Guitar, piano, keyboard.
Nice.
Okay, so one sales myth that you want to kill today.
Objection handling is overrated. I honestly think if you just do the right thing, people know how to buy. People, especially in America, people want to buy. So it's like, if you can just show people, Eleanor Roosevelt, I think it was FDR's wife. We had 2 Roosevelt presidents in America. I can never remember which one it was, but she said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's like 50% of the sales process. It's just showing people, like, this is not me trying to get something from you. I genuinely want to help you. I want to make your life better.
I love that. And I live by that as well. One daily metric every founder should watch out for.
Revenue.
Okay. But I guess the activity in terms of KPIs, what would help generate that revenue?
Yeah, this is hard to quantify, but it's not impossible. It's just a general excitement of your team. Like, if you're noticing on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like depressed and unhappy, and 10 being like Disneyland level excitement, if your team is typically around an 8 or a 9, it's not going to be that hard to have a successful business, because excited people are creative.
I love that. Excited people are creative, and that's why they can produce and do amazing things. 3 words that describe your selling philosophy.
Honesty, integrity, empathy.
And what was the last one?
Empathy.
Love it. Okay, so we have a couple of ways that you guys can connect. You can subscribe and like on Jeremy's YouTube channel over here at the bottom. You can connect with him at jeremysandell.com. You can also connect with him on X and also on Instagram. And one way that you can actually really learn more about sales is joining his school community, the Stealth Closer community at stealth-closer-school. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. And any last words for people who really want to connect with you and learn how to grow and scale 6, 7, 8, 9 figures?
Yeah, I mean, if there was one thing I can leave people with, is like, just change your mindset around what selling is. It's not your job to get whatever you can from people. It's your job to really make people's lives better. And what you'll find if you do that, and that's your primary way of operating, is it'll feel illegal how easy it is to close sales, because you're not there trying to get something. You're just like, I don't know what's happening, man. People just keep paying me, and it's weird. Like, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm just giving a damn. So I would recommend anybody who's got like a negative view on sales, just change it for yourself and watch what happens with your sales calls.
Amazing. Miles, thanks for tuning in. I know you came a bit late. You said you missed the beginning. You said you'll love to watch the replay. So we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, so you can check out all the socials there. All the replays are. This is like episode 155-ish. So there's a lot of these. And thank you, Jeremy. This is absolute gold. I learned a lot. I know everyone who's listening to this podcast, either live or the replay, will be learning a lot. Lots of gold nuggets that you dropped. And again, because we ran out of time, we have to do a part 2. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to the Sales Ninja Show podcast. We are here to help you to sell more, to give more. Until next time, again, Jeremy, thank you so much. You're amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, take care, everyone.
Massive.